my story. About 5 years ago, and I ended up having a huge fibroid tumor in my uterus, and we named him Bob, 2 pounds. And had I known then what I know now, I would have realized that I could have taken probably natural progesterone to shrink Bob. But 5 years ago, we didn't have any idea. And so ended up having a full hysterectomy, which means no hormones. And I began noticing changes in my body that I really didn't like. So my husband was very concerned. He's a pharmacist. He's been a pharmacist for 20 years, and thought, you know, I need to investigate, because if Lyn goes to her OBGYN, who is a wonderful man, he just knows what drug companies tell him and what he knows from his own background, and this whole natural realm isn't really on his radar screen, nor is it on many other doctors' radar. So I'm going to see what I can do. He began to investigate the area, and he went back to training as a compounding pharmacist, actually, lucky for me. And when it came time for me to go in for my annual exam, he went into my doctor and said, Frank, here's what we're going to do. Frank, being wonderful, said, you know what, let's give it a whirl. Let's try it. Your wife, your cause. So he signed off on the prescription, which I thought was just life-changing for me. I mean, not many doctors would probably have done that. And he did, and my husband, with his training, went back to the lab and made it, all natural, and saved me. And I thought, you know, this is impactful. If this happened to me, what about every other woman that I talk to that's gone through this, that has my story? What about them? Well, fast forward a couple years, about 3 years forward, my husband actually ended up buying the compounding pharmacy, and it was already established, and actually Suzanne Somers had mentioned it in her book, Ageless, as one of the pharmacies to go to in Ohio for compounded natural hormones. Fast forward 2 more years, we've been owners now for 2 years, and she now lists us in her brand new bestseller, well, it's new a few months ago, Breakthrough, as the only compounding pharmacy of choice in Ohio. So that's quite an honor. We have thousands of women across the country that we do compound natural hormones for and ship across the country. So it's a big deal to me. I'm very proud of that. But from my own realm of friends and acquaintances, and when I was going out doing marketing for doctors, I realized that women were coming to me and telling me their story. It was odd. It was like the law of attraction. Wherever I'd go, there'd be women behind me, and I would think, oh my gosh, the story was the same story. Didn't feel good, had symptoms of just, I knew in my mind it was hormone imbalance, but they couldn't put a label to it. And so they would tell me their story of going to their doctor, describing the symptoms, and he would without a doubt prescribe antidepressants. So I had an entire generation of women around me that were on antidepressants for hormonal imbalance, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I need to change this. Let's talk about menopause for a second, because I think it's the M word. There's such a mystery surrounding menopause. I mean, nobody wants to say, yay, I'm menopausal, and they do that little dance. I mean, I've never heard any woman say, I'm in menopause, hooray! Because I think it used to symbolize the beginning of death. I mean, I don't know, longevity runs in my family. My grandmother died in her mid-90s. My great-grandfather lived to be 100. I want to be around for a long, long time. And menopause is not the end of life as we know it. The symptoms of menopause, it's around age 50. I've had friends that have begun menopause. Perimenopause begins maybe as early 40s, late 30s even. About the age of 35, your ovaries begin to decrease the level production of your hormones. So beginning the age of 35, you begin to have this physiological response to aging, and it's called periomenopause. And then you have menopause for women and andropause for men about the age of 50. And you have the hot flashes, the memory loss, you have the libido, the vaginal dryness, the sexual issues, you have osteoporosis, you have cardiovascular disease setting in. It really impacts thyroid issues. Adrenal fatigue is huge. It impacts really many body systems. It becomes a way of life almost, and it's sad. So I'm really glad that we now have a remedy for menopause and for male menopause called andropause, and we can replace the hormones you've lost to increase your vitality, your joy of life, your sex drive, your bone density, your no hot flashes. You can sleep better. Risk of stroke decreases. It's very impactful. Deb Teeters, the owner of Jolie, said, you know, I've got this cute little stone building out back. What do you think about using that as a place for you to talk to women? And I thought, oh my gosh, brilliant, you're brilliant. Went home and talked to my husband, brought him out, we looked around. And it's the oldest building in Centerville. It's 11 by 14. Abraham Lincoln's cousin Nathan used it to make caskets. It's got a lot of history. It was simply just an empty stone old building. So we saw potential, you know, and so we came in and we transformed it into the Happy Hormone Cottage, and we give away, it's an information resource center for women to get them on board with education for natural hormone balance. When I first began this venture, this passion of mine, it was because women would come to me with the same story, and they'd go to a plethora of doctors and say, well, I'll be treated amazingly the same way. Doctors prescribe the synthetic hormones, it's hormone substitution. So women come in today and they either are already on the synthetics and are worried, they've read about the link with breast cancer and they should be concerned, or they have a prescription that's like, you know, their hands are shaking, I really don't want to take this, I've heard so much bad stuff about it, what can you tell me? There are a lot of synthetic hormones in the market today, and many of them have some serious health risks that have been documented. The Women's Health Initiative of 2002 is a great resource to go back if you have questions on the health risks. And so many women today come in, they haven't been validated or on antidepressants, and have been given a prescription for a synthetic hormone substitution. I'm all about presenting information, letting women choose. I'll say, well, here's the information I have, and some of the drugs out there may have some validity, but for me, here's what I believe since you came to me, and here's what I'll tell you. And then you can decide for yourself. And I give them all these resources, not only my website, but Women in Balance and Women to Women. I mean, there's a whole plethora. On my website, you can just check out a lot of other websites that can validate, and the books. You just have to become educated. I guess the biggest thing women come into me with, besides being on antidepressants, is they'll be on the drugs that come to mind right now are Premarin and Prempro, which, in my opinion, are really, I don't want to say life-threatening, but kind of. I really want them to get off it as soon as they can, but you can't just, once you're on those synthetic hormones, you just can't rip the patch off and go cold turkey because you'll be really sick. So it's a weaning process. What we say is to women that are on, they go to the doctor, they're not validated, the doctor talks to them and he says, oh, you don't want to do the bioidentical stuff, because he doesn't know about it. He's listening to what the drug reps tell him, and I'm not out there giving him, I have given him information, but it's the drug reps that are there a lot, and so they're not validated, and they'll prescribe them you know, the Premarin and the Prempro. Even the bioidentical hormones that drug companies are making now, and I want to caution women, they're not a bad product, but they're one size fits most, and they don't use saliva testing. And if you go to the doctor and they do prescribe bioidentical hormones, they're on the right road, and I'm glad for you. But just keep in mind, as you become further educated, that I really appreciate doctors that want testing results and not the blood serum. We find that blood serum test results are not adequate for what we need. We need information from the saliva. And so if doctors aren't using saliva test results and they're just kind of guessing based on symptoms and they're prescribing bioidentical hormones, that's the right road for me. But we go one step further with actual test results based on your saliva that we can compound for you because you are your own unique person. But the bioidentical hormones that are out there now are things like Vivalda, Prometrium. They're not a bad hormone replacement therapy, and they're on the right road, I think. But we again don't like the one size fits most. We want you to be based on what you need for you, based on your body. I'm a hope resource center. I'm not a doctor. I don't profess to be a doctor. I don't need to be a doctor. I just need to validate women and tell them, you know what, I can help you. Here are resources. Here's what I think you can do, and the biggest thing is education. Here are books. We have lots of titles besides Suzanne Somers. We really recommend the James Wilson Adrenal Fatigue book and his website. We offer other products I'll get into in a little bit, but the biggest thing that we actually tell women, once they become educated and they're on board, we give free information. The 12-step process of getting tested, getting treated, getting better, invent sheets, information, why we do saliva testing, a personal symptom sheet. So they get educated. We really feel like for women to get their hormone balances balanced, if you will, hormone imbalance balanced, we just can't guess, well, you look like you're 150 pounds, let's do this. Not so much. We actually need to get their levels, and we know from the research that it's the saliva in your body that has the hormone levels that we need, because a lot of the hormones reside at the tissue level of cells. So we ask women to come in. These are $4 to pay for our shipping, $4 for the saliva test. We have something else called a combo kit as well that also tests your thyroid, but more on that in a little bit. So the saliva test contains 4 vials, and we ask the women to spit into this test tube in the morning and then 3 times throughout the day. And when they do the saliva, it does test in the morning the estrogens, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and cortisol levels, and then throughout the day the cortisol levels. We send this away to ZRT Lab in Oregon. They analyze the results. Then as the results are coming back to our pharmacy, the women get on my website, again, happyhormonecottage.com. They click on the button that says Getting Started, Getting Better, and they go down to step 3, I think it is. It says Personal Symptom Sheet. They click on that, and they fill out all the information on their symptoms, their personal history, and it emails into our pharmacy email. And when the ZRT Lab sends their saliva test results back into our pharmacy, we have a pharmacist on staff in the previous video, Dawn, who will take the results and the information you've submitted online and put the puzzle pieces together and look at the snapshot of this lady. Let's call her Susan for now. Susan's life history with her saliva and her symptoms and her history. And then Dawn will call Susan and say, hey, Suze, we have your results. Who's your practitioner? And if they don't have one, on my website, we have about 30 practitioners that we recommend in the area that will work with us. And so we will fax a copy of the saliva test results to the doctor and a copy to her. And Dawn also recommend what this lady, Susan, might need to balance her hormones. She faxes that to the doctor as well. When Susan meets with the doctor will have the results right in front of him and Dawn's recommendation. He will dialogue with the woman, let's say Susan, and then he'll fax results back to our pharmacy, putting his input on there as well. So we're a triad. It's the woman, Susan, the doctor, and our pharmacist. And you know what? There's validation all around now. She's not alone. She has hope, and she has results, and we can treat that. So what we do when we get the signed prescription back from the practitioner is we go into our compounding lab, brand new, state-of-the-art compounding lab, and we compound her natural hormone for her.